My script is on my phone, so I'll be looking at my phone this entire video. Just a heads up. I was watching H-Bomber Guy's video on Sherlock, as you do, and the basic premise of the video is that BBC's Sherlock cares far more about the aesthetics of Sherlock than it does the function of a Sherlock mystery. And this naturally got me thinking about fantasy. Fantasy writers often fall in love with fantasy because they're attracted to the richness and compulsiveness of world building. It is supremely satisfying to stretch your creativity to the point of generating entirely new worlds, new climates, species, languages, societal structuring. The appeal of world building is so well established that equally established is the cautionary advice against the allure of world building. Fantasy is popular because of the richness and creativity it provides, both to writer and to reader. And it is so easy to bury yourself in the aesthetics of world building. This is an entire notebook of world building for a fantasy series I've been developing since I was 13 years old. And it is like 99% the aesthetics of world building. Now, I truly believe you need the aesthetics of world building because that is often the starting point. I will use my own works as an example. My fantasy series focuses on a world very heavily centered on plant life. A foundational concept I had come up with was the flowers told time. Think morning glories or nocturnal jasmine. Flowers that bloom at different times of the day, depending on the positions of the sun and the moon, or moons. This is an aesthetic of my world building. It's a very pretty, idyllic picture, sure, but what does it mean for the people living there? I could absolutely dedicate a paragraph or paragraphs to describing these flowers that tell time, the concept, and that's well and good, but again, it can feel a bit shallow, a bit more aesthetic than functional. So to make it more functional, it could mean that people wear flower crowns or flower bracelets, not as fashion statements, but as watches. Someone checks the flower on their wrist and rushes off because they'll be late to something. That is part of the functionality of world building. I could go on forever about vase, vase, crafting, job markets, and the impact of that on the economies. And this is one of the biggest reasons there are so many cautions against getting too lost in the world building sauce. The point I'm trying to make is fantasy stories feel fuller, richer, and realer when upheld by the functionality of world building, not merely by its aesthetics. Flowers can't just tell time. They have to affect the lived experiences of the people and that world. That, to me, is the difference between the aesthetics of world building and the functionality of it. I truly believe you need both. But I also believe that a lot of people confuse them. They think that a world is made rich by merely having the aesthetics rather than the functionality. You need the aesthetics, have fun with them, but then ask yourself, how would this affect the world, and more importantly, the people living there? All that said, your world building must be in service to the story, not your story in service to your world building. You can have the most logical, fleshed out world with 13 languages complete with grammar rules and lineage histories and texts on the evolution of creatures and the evolution of religious mythos, and all of it could be meaningless. All of it could bloat your story and confuse your readers. Because unless your story revolves around the discovery of a common ancestor of a specific fantastical creature, that origin is probably going to just be fun writer stuff. The biggest caution against world building is that it is an endless sinkhole. You can build upon every aspect until it is the most perfectly crafted fantasy world, and there will still be no story written. written. You can spend hundreds of hours padding your world with details and have 4 pages of actual story written. And of course, there's nothing wrong with that if your intent is not to write a fantasy story. But if you want to write a fantasy story, the world building can only be a piece of it. This is a difficult balancing act. Determining what to build for the sake of story versus what has been built for the sake of world building alone is not something that will come naturally or easily. Like everything else with writing, it is a skill that takes practice. You kind of have to write the drafts with all of the tangents, making references to superfluous details, because it made you giddy to create such a thing. You kind of have to write the draft full of flowers telling time, because that's so freaking cool, and not really go anywhere with it because it made you giddy to come up with such a thing. But then you need to go back and ask yourself about the story. That unnecessary detail will be struck and it will hurt, but it will better your story. The flowers telling time might not be a cool, mysterious line, and instead becomes subsumed in smaller details about flower watches. But it will better your story, and your story deserves to be told. Editing Madison here. I realized that I never filmed an outro, so thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that stereotypical YouTuber stuff, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Bye!